enters the Pike Place Market in Seattle had better be prepared to duck, because you never know when a flying fish might come sailing your way. This farmer's market has been in operation since 1907. It's quite a sight to behold. Vendors sell an array of all kinds of farm-fresh fruits and vegetables, wonderful cheeses and free-range poultry, and of course, some fabulous fish. Welcome to Flavors of America. Pike Place Market is the inspiration for today's recipes I'll be preparing for you. First, there's some spicy pan-fried halibut cakes, some Washington State apples are in our dessert, and then some gorgeous salmon for our wonderful salmon Provençal. But first, one thing.
Give her a little kiss.
Dan Buggy has been working for 12 years as a fishmonger in Seattle's world-famous Pike Place Market. Every morning, people come from far and wide to select from the plentiful bounty of the sea.
Remember, I'm the one throwing it. You don't want to call me Grandma.
But this morning, it's not the fish that draw schools of curiosity seekers. It's the crazy antics of the fishmongers.
It's very friendly, it's okay.
Which lure the fresh wave of consumers in for a closer look. It's a tradition which happened quite by accident, says Dan.
We had a guy that worked here who would always yell things. So everybody, that worked here said, well, why don't we, next time he yells something, let's all yell it back and see what he does. And it was like electricity. Everybody was like, oh my gosh. The fish throwing actually, we've been doing for a long time. The counter used to be up against the window here, and so it used to be just a little toss. They redid the tiles one day and moved the counter out. We said, why not? Leave it out here and we'll see how far we can throw it.
Daily antics and their lighthearted approach to business has become a cottage industry for the fish market, spawned by the release of several marketing videos and motivational seminars.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
But to the guys in the boots, it's a great way to break the ice. Elizabeth Connick came from Lansing, Michigan, drawn by these motivational videos to try her hand at the slippery craft.
My boss knew I was coming out here and thought it would be pretty neat if I could get on camera catching a fish, so that was the goal.
So how was it?
It was great, it was slimy.
Pike Place Market was established in August of 1907. Now nearly a century old, the market has played a major role in shaping how food trends and consumers meet.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Anything we can get for you?
Stay tuned for more Flavors of America right after this.
We're going to start off with a gorgeous halibut cake. And to start that off, I'm going to melt a little bit of butter into a pan, which we're going to put some onions and a little bit of garlic. And we want to saute this, however, we don't want to brown it. So you want to make sure that you keep it nice and low heat to where you're not going to brown up that onion, because we want it to be nice and white when we mix it into the cake. When I have some seafood, and I have a seafood dinner, and I maybe have some salmon one night and some halibut the next night, take a little bit of the leftover, put it into a freezer baggie, and just save it for when you want to make some crab cakes or fish cakes. That way you can actually make a whole mixture. But we want to definitely do halibut for this one. I've got some lemon zest that's going to go in here, along with our breadcrumbs. And I have 3 eggs that have been beaten that we're going to add to this. And there's no mayonnaise in this mixture at all, so only binders are the egg and the breadcrumbs. So let's just mix that up right here. Let's take a look at our onions and garlic and just saute these off just for a second. just like this. And we want to use a nonstick pan when we saute off the halibut cakes. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt to our mixture, and over the shoulder for some Pike's Market good luck, and a little bit of pepper in there. Then I have a little bit of ground ginger I'm going to add, and a little bit of lemon juice. And that's going to be a wonderful flavor mixture. Whatever you want to add to this, if you wanted to add a little bit of bell peppers, you certainly could. If you wanted to add a little bit of green onions, chives would be great with that as well. Now we have our onions and garlic. I'm going to go ahead and add them at this point. And they're ready to go. I'm just going to grab a rag and just wipe this out because I want to use the same pan for our cakes right here. And to that, I'm going to add a little bit more butter that we're going to saute our cakes in and turn this on down. And that's perfect. Now, we want to mix this up, and this is the basis for our halibut cakes. Like we were talking about, we want this to be a nice white cake. We're not looking for any other. We didn't put green onions, we didn't put bell peppers in here on purpose because you see how nice and white this is? This is a wonderful, wonderful mixture. And another thing that I really like to do with this as a first course is to do a little bit of green salad with it, and that would be your green. Or you could do these even smaller and make them part of an hors d'oeuvre tray. Now I've got some flour along with a little bit of cayenne, a little bit more salt, just like that, and a little bit of pepper. And I'm going to mix this together, and this is what's going to be our mixture for pan frying up our cakes, this right here. So let's take some of this, move our butter around, make sure it's all over our pan real well. Take a little bit of cake mixture, just like that. And then I'm going to go into our flour mixture. You want to make sure you get it well coated with the flour. Some on top, and into the pan we go. Perfect. I'll turn this heat back up. I didn't want that butter to get too brown on me real quickly. You could use a clarified butter, and that would be good as well, but you want to use butter because it gives us such a nice flavor. I wouldn't want to use olive oil for this dish. That's just my own personal taste there. Now I'm going to put some more flour on this one and coat this one up just like this. And we have two beautiful halibut cakes. So after these have been sauteing just for a couple minutes, you want to flip those over. Isn't that beautiful? How golden brown those are, how wonderful they look. Let's make a little remoulade sauce to go with this. I'm going to grab a lemon and slice this up. Just go into a bowl. Very simple, easy to do sauce. You could do a cocktail sauce or a tartar sauce if you wanted to. Any kind of sauce you want to put with this would be fine. I've got a little bit of mayonnaise I'm going to put into that bowl, just like that. A little bit of capers, and a little bit of some chopped parsley. I've got a little bit of cucumber that's been chopped, and some onion. Just mix all that up together. Put a little bit of salt and pepper in, and we are ready to go. Over the shoulder, just like that. I'm going to take these cakes out here. Aren't those gorgeous? Look at that. Those are absolutely beautiful. Those are absolutely, people say you have so much fun cooking. Well, I mean, look at that. How could you not have fun making something like that? I'm going to put these right here as well. Put a little bit of our remoulade sauce right here on top. I tell you what, salmon dish coming up, which is another really easy to do dish.
Recipes from Flavors of America can be found on the World Wide Web at flavorsofamerica.com. Jim Coleman has written the companion cookbook to the Flavors of America television series. To order your copy of Flavors, call toll-free 1-877-842-2974.
Seattle's Pike Place Market. I can't do a show about that without using some wonderful salmon that was thrown at me earlier in the show. So let's get started with this. This is a wonderful and simple, easy to do dish. I'm going to season our wonderful looking salmon here. Put a little bit of salt and over the shoulder for good luck, and a little bit of pepper on here. And then we're going to saute this in just a little bit of olive oil. You want to make sure this is nice and hot. And I think this is nice and hot for us. We're going to put the belly side down first. Let that get nice and seared on either side. And once that's seared, we're going to remove that and put the other dishes to go for our wonderful Provençal salmon here. Now I'm going to put some flour in some raw butter. And we've talked about thickening agents in the past. This is an old, very old, classical way of making a beurre meunier, which is a thickening agent. You don't see it very often anymore. It's only used in classical French cooking. But it's a good way to use a thickening agent. One of my chefs calls it pie dough without water. And that's probably a pretty good explanation of it. And you have to use your fingers. You're just going to mix this flour and the butter together. And that's going to be our thickening agent for our sauce when we pull it out of the oven. So that's perfect, just like that. Now, let me check our salmon here. What I want to do is flip this over. See how this is doing. Oh, nice and golden brown, looks perfect. We're not cooking it all the way in this pot. We're just going to give it a nice little coating. That sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And once that's coated like that, I'm just going to put it right back on our plate that we were using earlier, because this has to finish cooking. And I'm going to pull this out. And we're going to add some garlic right in here, a little bit of onions, some bell peppers, and then last but not least, some wonderful mushrooms. So let's let these mushrooms and bell pepper and onion cook down just for a second. And we're going to add a little bit of white wine to this, a nice dry white wine. I'm going to pour that in, about half a cup to 3/4 of a cup. And then some clam juice. And we want to season this part of the sauce. We seasoned the fish earlier, but we want to season this sauce later because clam juice can be high in sodium. So you want to make sure you don't over salt it. And then last but not least, there's a little bit of tomatoes. And what we want to do is put our salmon right back on top of here and put a lid on it. And you have to make sure this is an oven-proof pan because we're going to stick this in a 350-degree oven for about 15 minutes until the salmon cooks and the sauce is nice and ready. And I've got one in here, so let me pull that one down. Just like so. I'll stick this one in. And let's take a look and see what we have here. See how the salmon's cooked? And now that this has come to a boil, we can add our beurre meunier. And we just want to mix this in and let this thicken up our sauce ever so slightly. Just like that. Wonderful flavors. And also the butter gives it a wonderful richness that's going to be great for that. Now I'm going to grab a plate and I'm going to plate up the salmon that we took out of the oven. Salmon's nice and warm. I've got a little bit of mashed potatoes with some asparagus and some tomatoes there. And we're going to let this finish up. The smell of this is so simple. Sometimes just the most simple ingredients make the best dishes. And let's plate this up, just spoon this right on top of our wonderful piece of salmon here. Piece of salmon that got thrown at me earlier in the show, but makes a wonderful entree for our Pike's Market salmon. Isn't that gorgeous? When we come back, we're going to do a little trick with some phyllo and make a wonderful, easy dessert.
Stay tuned for more Flavors of America right after this.
Real quick, when you think of Washington State, what fruit do you think of? Of course, apple. So we have to do a nice Washington State apple tart with some rum whipped cream. To get started with that, I'm going to take some butter and melt it in a pan here. And then we're going to take 2 apples. We have 2 apples. Tart apples is what you're looking for because we want to keep their form a little bit, like a Washington State, a Granny Smith. And we want to saute these off. And these are 2 apples that have been peeled, cored, and diced. That's all it is. Very simple and easy to do. And we're going to saute those off in just a little bit of butter and let those cook down and top them with a little bit of sugar. And what we're doing with the butter and the sugar is we're helping the caramelization process. And this is going to take about 35 minutes right here. The butter and the sugar and the apples, and you would want to turn this down. I've got this too high. Just turn it down ever so slightly and get a nice, wonderful caramelization right here. Now I have some raisins, and we're going to mix the raisins with a little bit of brandy. And I'm going to put that brandy in there. And you want to be careful of this because this could ignite. I'm going to go ahead and do it just so it makes it easy so I know I can control it that way. If you heat that up, it could just ignite on you without you knowing about it. So it's better to go ahead and ignite it yourself. That way you know when it's ready. Let those cook down. Those raisins are going to soak up the brandy. So when you bite into each one, they're going to have a wonderful, lovely flavor. And after these have been cooking for about, I would say, once again, about 35 minutes, you're going to get something that looks like this. Let me hold this over here just so you can see what the mixture looks like. See how those apples are nice and caramelized? This is going to be this in 35 minutes. And after that's cooked down, you want to add your raisins to that. And I'm going to add just a little bit more brandy to this. I've got some walnuts, some chopped walnuts I'm going to add. A little bit of nutmeg and a little bit of cinnamon. Now I have a little bit of the brandy in here, so once again, this could ignite, but there's so little in here right now, I don't think it will. Let this cook for about another 10-15 minutes, so the whole cooking process is about 40 minutes for the apples. Then you can turn it off and just let them cool naturally. Now we need to do our phyllo dough, and to do that, you've got to have some workable phyllo dough, and the best phyllo dough is just the frozen kind you buy in any grocery store. Just make sure that you let it thaw out overnight in the refrigerator before you start working with it. So we're going to take this and open this up. So all we need are 2 pieces. So I'll take one to start off with. I'm going to work with it back here. And what I want to do is get a little bit of butter and baste this whole piece of phyllo right here, just like that. Perfect. I'm going to get some cookie crumbs, and we're going to spread those right on top of this piece of phyllo. So we have some cookie crumbs, whatever kind of cookies are laying around the house. And I tell you what, if you got kids or a sweet tooth, you'll have some cookies laying around the house. I have that feeling. And one more piece of phyllo right on top of that. And we want to baste this again with some butter, just like that. And then we want to cut this. So we're going to take a knife, cut it in half, and then cut it in half lengthwise and diagonally, just like that. And I'm going to cut it again into 1 more pieces of squares right here and right here. So you have 8 pieces of this phyllo dough. Then we're going to get a muffin tin. Just any type of muffin tin will work. If you're using one that's not nonstick, you may want to put a little spray on there just so it doesn't stick. And what we're going to do is put in, right into the muffin tin, our phyllo, just like that. That's one piece, two pieces, about 3 pieces is all we're going to need. You're going to stick this into a 350-degree oven for about 15 minutes. Is all it's going to take. After 15 minutes, it's going to be nice and crisp, and they will flatten down some. And what you're going to do is pull that out, and now we're ready to have our mixture. But first, let me get some whipped cream going here. I have some plain heavy cream that I'm going to mix with a little bit of powdered sugar. Pull this up, and when it gets nice and whipped up, we'll add a little bit of our brandy to that. So this is going to go into the oven. When it comes out, you're going to get a nice, crispy piece of phyllo dough. See how nice and crispy that is? Just like that. And into that is going to go our apple mixture. And I've got one filled up. I'm filling up the last one. Just like so. Let's go into the oven. It's going to take just a second. All you're going to do is heat up the apples and the raisin, which ours are warm already. I'm going to put this in the oven. And let's check our whipped cream here. And we're going to add our little bit of brandy to that. Turn that off. We've got our whipped cream. We're not looking for real stiff peaks. This is going to be just something nice and smooth. That's going to go right on top of that. So let's get a plate here. Go back to the oven. This would have been in here maybe 10, 15 minutes at the max, just making sure it's all nice and hot. We're going to grab one of these beautiful phyllo cups that we're calling a tart. We're playing around with the name a little bit, just like that. I'm going to grab our whipped cream. Wonderful, simple to do, easy dish, but at the same time, just gorgeous and fun. You could play around, you could do pears, you could do peaches, anything you want to put in there would be fine. I'm going to garnish it with a little piece of mint. Simple yet elegant and so nice and easy to do. We've used all ingredients that we got from Pike's Market in Seattle, and just a little tip from your Uncle Jim: when you're walking down that market and somebody says duck, you better duck. You better squeeze down there because there's some flying fish around there. I hope you're going to try these in your home. And until next time, have a delicious week.